10 years ago, on June 9th, 2015, the very first BaneShake's video was uploaded to YouTube. A decade on, this channel has grown and helped me grow in so many unexpected, delightful ways. So to mark this truly significant occasion, I wanted to host this little Q&A so that you could get to know me, BaneShake's Charlie, a little better, in a more real and meaningful way. What's your favorite war crime? You know, I'm pretty partial to dressing up as the enemy so I can sneak up and cause them bodily harm indie style, personally. I think that one's pretty fun. Misusing the Red Cross. That one's against the Geneva Convention. You can actually buy that war crime on a Lego brick for mere cents over on Bricklink. Better act fast, there's only 2 available. Jesus Christ, you guys. What is your most and least favorite game you've played and/or reviewed? I'll answer that in terms of both just playing for myself as well as reviewing for the channel. This will be no surprise for long-term viewers. I've been saying this on loop for years. Batman Arkham City is my favorite game of all time. There's a bunch of times it was relevant. That whole series is really a top contender for that answer. Obviously, also love my Assassin's Creed. Brotherhood is still my favorite one to this day, but lots of good choices there. Bugsnax is my favorite game in recent years. I could probably give favorites all day if really pressed on it. Least favorite game I've ever played was Shadows of the Damned. It wanted to be ironic, goofy, quirky horror, but it just felt like it was trying too hard to be ironic, and so that just felt forced. You cannot force irony that hard. And the actual horror elements just felt like generic third-person horror of the day, so it was just tedious and there was no thrill or terror to any of it. You can actually have good horror comedy that is both scary and funny. Look at the Evil Dead franchise. But this one failed on all counts. And the damn difficulty trophies didn't even stack, like literally every other game. So if you beat it on a harder difficulty, it wouldn't even give you the trophies for the easier difficulties. Trash. Now, my favorite game for the process of reviewing here was this one, and is honestly one of my favorite videos here too, though it didn't do any crazy numbers, in part because YouTube probably detected me saying the title and the titular topic too much, and no matter what they claim otherwise, YouTube will quash things down if they think advertisers won't like it. I've watched it happen in the analytics with things like shorts too. But the other part is definitely just that it's more of a cult classic game that a lot of people just don't know about today, which is fine. What made that one so much fun to discuss was just how rich and nuanced and ambiguous the plot deliberately is, with amazing performances from the likes of Andy Serkis earlier than most games were using motion capture like this game did. Least favorite I've reviewed here, and I am disqualifying those bad rip-off games I've covered a few times. Those were only ever going to be abysmal, and so I'm looking at professionally developed titles only for my answer, is Deadpool. I normally quite like the character when he's handled correctly as both a postmodernist analysis of superhero tropes and as the deceptive sad clown who uses humor and absurdism as coping against the inherent tragedies of the world and his life. But this game did none of that right. It's only the obnoxious meme clown version of the character that instantly betrays when someone doesn't really get Deadpool any deeper than those bad "and then Deadpool walks in" fan pitches. And the gameplay is generic and unpolished slop to a massive fault. I genuinely do not get how anyone can stand this truly disappointing game. Must ask the most important question of all. What's your favorite dinosaur? You are absolutely right. This is the most important question of all. While I'm plenty a fan of Deinonychus, a close contender, Allosaurus definitely takes the lead. Walking with Dinosaur's Big Al episode might as well have just lived in my VHS player at a very young age. These dapper fellas were stomping and chomping their way to the top of the Jurassic, and they are definitely too overlooked amongst large carnivorous theropods. Do you think you'd ever consider making a Discord or some place for your community to hang out? Sure, I would absolutely consider that. I'm not very good at Discord, it confuses me. I'm not even old, and yet I look at Discord and the understanding of technology just flees my body. But yes, at some point I'll talk to more capable people to figure that out and keep you posted. I know for sure I would want to make sure it feels appropriately moderated first, because I take a lot of potshots at right-wing chuds on here, and I have no interest in just opening a door for them to try and harass you guys. I do a decent amount of moderating here in the comments to foster healthier discourse, so I know there are people willing to try and push it. Do you have a favorite animal? Yes, I do. When I was younger, I absolutely would have given more elaborate or exotic answers like elephants or red-tailed hawks. Still like them, don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect for animals across the board. I'm a real animal kind of a guy. But nowadays I'm just going to have to go with good old reliable dogs. We spent 30,000 years working alongside and domesticating these things, and now we have just the most delightful and goofy little goobers who just get us so well. Funny little butt sniffers. I also have a huge appreciation for birds, generally. I love really smart birds like parrots and especially corvids. I think it would be rad as hell to have a big ol' raven friend. This next question actually comes from a very close real-life friend, so I am saying nepotism will get you places. But it was just too perfect for the anniversary to not include. Is there an origin story to your channel? What inspired you to start? I actually existed on YouTube before BaneShake. I know. In 8th grade / early high school, I started making unnecessary censorship videos after first discovering the concept, because it was the funniest shit I had ever seen in my life. I had a whole other channel for it, still out there. Mr. Is That Necessary is what I called it. And though it's still technically out there, the video quality on 2 of them got inexplicably fucked up at some point. I've actually remade a few of those original clips for my more modern videos, since they were already my work in the first place. Felt more like remastering than anything. In college, I was working on one of these for fun for a while, but I no longer had access to that channel because it was tied to a Comcast.net email address that I no longer had access to either. My normal email was linked to a channel just under my name I had used for a couple of late high school projects, but at that time, most of my social circle online was still the church people I had grown up around, and I just did not want those squares seeing all the vulgarity associated with my name. Obviously, I stopped giving any fucks long since. So I made a new channel. I needed a name for it, of course. There was an image I had been goofing around with where I had Bane fantasizing about a milkshake despite having a perfectly good cup of coffee sitting right there. I cannot explain it any better than that. My head was in a weird space in college. And the second version of the image had been saved to my desktop as yet another BaneShake.jpg. And I immediately realized how catchy BaneShake is. Now, for a while, I used the channel for whatever random things felt like the YouTube I had grown up with. I'd do little sketches, one of which went semi-viral and still has more views than anything else I've ever made at over 900,000. Lots of little gameplay glitches and bugs, even sometimes would make stop-motion brick films. But this video is the one that marked the turn towards trying to do things more in-depth. I'd toyed around with the concept for a while. I always liked hypothesizing what I would do for such a countdown video, but the very last game I covered in that video, an indie game titled 3/4 Home, hit me so emotionally hard when I played it, I knew I simply had to make the rest of that video, and the whole thing sort of fell together. The final big change that cemented modern BaneShake was the pandemic 5 years ago, which finally tipped me into beginning the massive project I had mulled over and planned for a while, a briefish history of Assassin's Creed, which obviously has expanded and now has 2 other series in the mix with Batman Arkham and TT's LEGO titles, all of which are ongoing projects with plenty of ground still to cover ahead of them. If it weren't for a briefish history, I don't think I ever would have started covering any games in depth the way I do now. So that's primarily where the shift really happened. And the core of it all is just that I've always enjoyed entertaining people. I like making people laugh, and I like storytelling. I was a theater kid, in case you couldn't tell. And so even if things like ad revenue and Patreon support and the like had never entered the equation, I'd still be out here trying to do this very same thing regardless. It's rather fulfilling doing this for, and really with, all of you guys. Do you plan to visit pre-TT LEGO games? Yes, I do fully intend to cover some of that earlier stuff. I even know which game I want to cover first. I dare not specify any more than that because I'm real good at just sitting on projects for a while, because I got no goddamn time to make everything that crosses my brain. But yes, those earlier games are often rather good themselves and should not be lost to erasure just because my beloved LEGO adaptation games got so definitive so quickly that they sort of took over. This one's a three-parter. I already submitted a queue, so no pressure. Indeed you did. Your other question is actually in the video later. But what are your top 5 albums? Tricky, because I so often adopt individual songs that I like and don't often listen to full albums. But damn it, I'll make it happen just for you, Bogbag Bobble, and also everyone else watching too by default. Favorite is unambiguously Woodkid's The Golden Age. He is my favorite artist, bar none, and that one weaves this emotional narrative when you listen through in order, and it is so fucking moving. And obviously the songs are great on their own too. They stand on their own beautifully. Muse's Black Holes and Revelations album has several very good songs and some of my favorites of their work, so there's 2. I will give you one from back when I was growing up. I was raised fundy, so a lot of non-Christian music was a no-go. But there is still one loosely Christian metal band I still have full respect for. They were my favorite back then. Red. They let their themes just be subtextually woven in instead of just singing Jesus 69 times in succession. And also they were actually talented and well written, which eliminates so many of their peers. Best album was the deluxe edition of Innocence and Instinct with the bonus songs, so I'll go with that. I would still more than willingly listen to all of that. Maybe I'll review that whole thing for my patrons at some point here. Shit, that's only 3 albums. Alright, I love me a good instrumental soundtrack. Don't think that's what you were going for, but oh well. I'll throw in the official Assassin's Creed 3 and Batman Arkham City scores to skirt by on a loophole, bitches. What is your favorite 70s movie? Easy. Alien, 1979. That movie is so perfect that when I found out some friends hadn't seen it, I casually had 11 friends over for a movie night and watched live. How anytime we'd have a couple of moments of joking around together, everyone would rapidly get immersed back in and held rapt during the tension. I made a neat little Instagram story for it with my NECA big chap and my computer monitor for the background on a whim that morning. It's a brilliant movie, and it is the best monster design in cinema. Who is your favorite visual artist? Depends on mood. In fact, that is always the case with favorites, and my answers could change at any given moment. If you ever catch me being inconsistent on here, I'm not a liar. I'm being flaky. Right now, favorite visual artist, I would go with Mike Mignola. Look at that art. Mac OS or Windows or even Linux. I've technically used all 3 a decent amount, though I haven't used Linux in years, since my father had a very specific Linux kick and put it on all of our home computers and then just later stopped using Linux because he's real fucking inconsistent like that. Maybe that's where I get it from. Default, I use Mac OS for most tasks, but I actually have the newest MacBook that still had the old Intel chips they no longer use, so I can dual boot Windows as well for a lot of gaming purposes. There's pros and cons for everything, unfortunately, but I do find Macs more consistently capable of playing nice with the creative suite I most often use, so I guess that one's going to win out just by a little bit. Do you have any good non-generic life advice to help get through depression or anxiety slumps? Sure. And just to be as responsible as I possibly can, because I know how significantly this stuff can really impact people, I know the generic answers are coming from a good place, the seek therapy or do physical activity stuff that you hear a lot of times obviously do have good benefits for mental health. So full disclosure, yes, do things that take care of you in those ways too. Sometimes answers are generic for a very good reason. I know sometimes those feel like hurdles because there's just not as much in the internal battery, and even the simple things can feel insurmountable. Trust me, I've been there. But it is a process, and working towards being able to do more of the generic suggestions is like strengthening a muscle. You will be able to build up little by little until it doesn't feel as overwhelming. So just do your best, start with those, that's great. Generic answer aside, there are some things to remember. Quite a lot of the depression and anxiety we see are environmental, and unfortunately capitalism creates the prime environment for these issues. I'll link a video from a guy I really like who gets deeper. Now is not the time to soapbox. Since we can't really fix the whole thing around us, I do think it's good to do a few things that we can fix. Build a trusted support network, people around you can trust to help keep you afloat. Also having a literal happy and clean environment around yourself, your room or your house as possible, so you have a place you can feel most grounded. Those can help. I do realize we're still bordering on generic answers a little bit. Here's a non-generic one for anxiety that specifically works for me. May be worth a try if you think it could be good for you. If you're thoughtful about how you do it, horror can actually be a good way to give yourself a controlled dose of anxiety with a clear-cut endpoint for some emotional catharsis. Obviously, if you do this, don't pick a topic that would just keep lingering with you in the back of your brain, just making things worse. And don't just jump into the most notoriously harrowing examples you can find. A lot of really thoughtful horror is not just trying to overwhelm you, and on the other end of the spectrum, even a lot of dumb, schlocky horror can sometimes work because it's too dumb and schlocky to linger with you in the back of your mind once it's over. Maybe do a little research, see what would feel like a soft starting point. Give it a try, see if it helps. Worst case, you can literally just pause it, turn it off, and never do it again, and I've only, ruined one evening, not your life. Who is the hottest Assassin's Creed protagonist? And that person helpfully clarified their own answer as Edward Kenway, with someone else chiming in with Ezio. Both good answers, and Assassin's Creed protagonists really are a bisexual paradise. So many beautiful and rugged and dexterous individuals. The voice actor for Edward, Matt Ryan, actually was one of the first celebrity crushes I had when I came to terms with my bisexuality. He was also TV's John Constantine, truly a magnificent man. But Edward's not going to be my answer. I'm actually going to go with Basim. When he's grown the beard and finding his way in both Baghdad and the Hidden Ones in Mirage as this young man, the cynicism and uncertainties of the spoilers haven't happened yet, so he's still this idealist with this heart of gold, looking to help the people. Traits which seem to linger some in his older post-spoiler years. If I'm being kind of vague and you haven't played Valhalla or Mirage, it probably seems kind of odd that I'm alluding to something unknown so significantly, but trust me, his character goes some odd and still kind of mysterious places, but still such a very, very pretty man. What is your favorite McDonald's meal? I'm going to be completely honest, rant time. McDonald's has become the most boring and soulless of all of the corporate chain restaurants. I'm not going to pretend they were ever the good guy in the same way big corporations always choke out smaller businesses and exploit the hell out of their workers, but at least they used to be a bad guy who would try to do more original things and hadn't converted everything to gray fucking rectangles. Jesus. Now everyone else has been playing with the trend of bringing back the snack wrap, except for McDonald's. And they were the ones with the snack wrap in the first place. They got so boring, chicken on a tortilla became too exotic. Don't get me started how they switched to far more generic chicken sandwiches when the corpos were forcing the pretense of a chicken sandwich war. All of the different chain restaurants used to be doing is easy marketing BS. The buttermilk chicken was much better. When eating at McDonald's is a necessity, I guess I'd just go with a quarter pounder since that's the one they'll use the fresher ingredients for. I don't know. As the certified gamer we know you are, what would you say is your S-tier gaming hunk? I'll leave out the assassins since I just covered them. A few options. Isaac Clarke, especially around his Dead Space 3 era, once he'd had time for the trauma to set in. Oh, he makes the trauma look so very handsome. Starkiller from the now non-canon The Force Unleashed, thanks mostly just to having Sam Witwer's likeness, and he also makes the trauma look very handsome. Uh-oh, I'm thinking I may have a type. Okay, another option could be Monkey. Yep, there it is. Apparently my type is traumatized men. Fuck, am I just projecting? Favorite and least favorite Arkham characters, Arkham rendition specifically, and who got done dirtiest and the best. Full disclosure, I haven't played Arkham Shadow yet since I don't have a meta quest yet. I'll obviously need one at some point for both Arkham and Ass Creed Briefish Histories, but no VR, so I can't play the VR games, so right now I only know what people have so rudely spoiled on Reddit from that game. If it hadn't been for Origins, Bane and Deadshot would have been done real dirty, but that game saved both for much higher rankings with the Arkham versions. Least favorite, Brainiac from Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, because Brainiac is not only the basic bitch of DC team-up video game villains, and we've seen him several times in other games in recent years, this one is probably the shallowest and ugliest version yet, and they completely wasted the talents of Jason Isaacs. He got done so dirty. Best Arkham-specific version, either Mad Hatter, perfect performance and design, always cool hallucinogenic Wonderland visuals when he tries to do the mind control on you, or Scarecrow for similar reasons. Personally think the big undead-looking John Noble version in Arkham Knight is scarier, but if you prefer the twink Scarecrow of Arkham Asylum, I won't begrudge you that. What is your favorite Arkham Batman game? Obviously at this point, Arkham Origins Blackgate. I'm definitely not dragging my feet on finishing that episode because it's such a tedious endeavor. No, sir. Not a question, I just want to say thanks for making fun of the woman who shall not be named every time you bring up the HP Lego games. As a trans person, it brings me joy every time. Hey, genuinely, you're welcome. Since it's unavoidable that the Lego Harry Potter games come up in the context of the whole series, since those two entries have a good amount of significance in how the whole series developed and changed from there, I would much rather make it unambiguous that this is a place where trans rights are celebrated, because your experience is real and genuine. And jerky Klondike Rowling is the worst kind of trash, trying to use a platform she built on childhood nostalgia to oppose people's human rights. Fuck her and fuck the bigoted horse she rode in on. Are you going to do any remasters of your older icebergs? I loved your Star Wars one. So I'm honored that you think I am capable of doing an iceberg video. Those are huge and impressive undertakings. But I've never made an iceberg video. I suspect I have spread my interests too wide and so would never get to those most obscure tiers you need to fill out to justify the whole thing. Again, you put great faith in me, but don't know what you're thinking. Not me that time. If you could design a Lego game adapting any franchise, which would you choose and why? How would you like it to differ in design? Are there any specific mechanics or character skills that might emerge? Not hacky at all, dude. Great question. And thank you for the kind support. I would genuinely want to see more of LEGO's in-house themes represented, and I would want one based around one of the most crucial staple themes, LEGO Space. You could use the third-person shooting mechanics from Skywalker Saga, let the main character be a custom creation like DC supervillains, though maybe give some voice options so they could actually be voiced in this case. Get your own big spaceship and go around recruiting dozens of characters from all of their space themes or collectible miniseries. Maybe choose which looks you want from the different eras to use as crew uniforms. Go around, see a bunch of planets, defeat a big galactic threat together. Sort of a little Mass Effect-y, except without the space racism or banging aliens, because I don't think LEGO would greenlight such elements. A few here that I'm sure have been asked elsewhere, but here we go. Actually, only one of your three ended up asked elsewhere. Nice work. First one, thoughts on Bane in Gail Simone's Secret Six. So, Gail Simone's Secret Six is my second favorite comic of all time, only barely behind Grant Morrison's mind-blowing run on Doom Patrol. And that is the reason that Deadshot and Bane are my favorite comics characters. Bane, in particular, was not only restored to the greatness he had fallen away from, when no one else knew what to do with him, I would say he exceeded any depiction ever before. He got so much depth and nuance to his unorthodox sense of honor, which makes it so clear why he's such a brutal and often malevolent force, but tragically, because he does have a certain nobility in his heart. I won't spoil it because it's so good. But the way the original series finally concluded only happened the way it did, because it deeply explores the question of what it would mean for Bane to be part of this team, with such camaraderie he is very unfamiliar with for so long. The whole series only has a good ending because it gets Bane. I already answered your second question, so the third one. What setting/time period could Assassin's Creed cover that you feel could provide interesting gameplay mechanics? Okay, I think if Assassin's Creed wanted to get brave again, the gameplay systems have to be open to change first before they can start looking at eras, sort of in an opposite way, which technically we could start to see with specific one-offs if Hex is as different as they imply. But regardless, they're going to need to be willing to get rid of the hacky, slashy RPG combat thing that's focused so heavily on general audience appeal. Don't get me wrong, I can appreciate a lot of the things that they have done since Origins when they started to do those, but it's going to constrain a lot of what they can do in places where that just does not work. So assuming that they were willing to open it up, and let's say, for example, if they started to get into wars from the last century, when guns really start to get commonplace, maybe even, let's go with World War II, since that's sometimes demanded in certain circles. I would want to see something like that become a true stealth game, since getting spotted would be pretty instant death with powerful firearms of the era. And I would want that particular example to be an unflinching exploration of what goes wrong to allow fascism to rise up in the way it does. Make it pull no punches the way some of the old series stuff used to be. And hell, I'd say make it first person, so that one's really, really immersive and you're seeing it unfold around you and it's just, visceral, and I think it would get the point across really well in a way that would definitely not work swinging swords around like your Dark Souls. For something with more old school controls, I would pick, to start maybe Dawn of the Common Era, 1 CE if you pick up what I'm doing, maybe 33 CE if you catch my subtle drift. First of all, there's just lots of emperors in the Roman Empire that you can historically justify getting assassinated, and you could apply good meta-narratives of anti-authoritarianism to a lot of them. And there's also some lore reasons I elaborated on in that video somewhere over there a couple of years back. Again, 33 CE is kind of an important point for the atheist meta-narratives that are just chock full of Assassin's Creed if you actually look deeper than the surface. Another option, I would love to really see something with a heavy parkour-focused game. You could set it in the Inca Empire, something the comics only briefly touched on, but they had people that were all about, running and getting the messages through to people. It worked well for the comics. I don't know, that could be fun if you had a nice in-depth parkour system. They could figure something out. Honestly, and this will be weird, but setting is less important to me than just seeing bolder and more original gameplay design again. It's like I said at the beginning. They've played it too safe with game design for a very long time now. Do I think Ubisoft will ever do such a thing? Probably not, the cowards. Alright, last question, everyone. I hope that's not too personal, but how did you find out you are bisexual? Not too personal at all. In an ideal world, part of me should always have been able to know, but I was repressing that hard at a young age. The first male crush I can distinctly remember, which I really had to push hard to stay in denial of at the time, was Aragorn in Fellowship of the Ring. Even earlier than that, the ways I felt around other boys with a lot of unclear social anxieties and a lot of things that could often feel like very deep betrayals when they do hurtful things, definitely makes me think I was juggling more of those feelings than my environment allowed me to be aware of. Also, one time, later on, I dreamed I was in love with General Zod. That should have been a tip-off. Technically, my patrons already know this. I found out for real in my young 20s when I was renting a house with my buddy, Austin. Zip your pants back up, this is not nearly as porny as that setup makes it sound. He and I would commonly be drinking and goofing off. I said, zip your pants back up. And one occasion, when we both had our partners over, we decided half-drunk to take some in-depth online Kinsey scale test that gives you a broad picture of where on the spectrum of sexuality you fall. No clue how we got to that point, but someone suggested it, so we all did it. And I'm sitting there, looking at my results, and it's like, yeah, dude, you more than incidentally would be happy and fulfilled in a romantic or sexual relationship with other dudes. And I was like, huh. And I was like, huh, for days. And it started to feel very clear with the element of hindsight that that should not have been a revelation to me. Now, being monogamous and engaged at the time, this obviously did not change any external specifics, but it hella made a lot of internal specifics, and absolutely felt like some things were resolved. There was more than just some internal peace with that discovery. Not gonna lie. Well guys, that was fun. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I just sort of rambled on here for, not looking at that time code. If you want to keep up with me, to keep getting to know me better, I have socials linked in the description. I'd love for you to follow me on those too. I'll go find any links back to videos that were relevant here, and obviously feel free to watch anything you've not seen before. I'm always trauma dumping little bits of Charlie lore in the mix. If you somehow got this far and you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Like and comment, and that'll help appease the algorithm that makes videos do well. Until next time, I'll go thank my patrons.